2, 1, 0. And July versus BackHo, this is on Othello. This is game 4. This is the critical game. July 2-1 up. BackHo needs this game. Obviously, another must-win game for him. Looks like July playing Zerg and teal. Again, similar cross-map positions to what we had on the previous map. July starting up at the 5 o'clock position this time. BackHo at the 11 o'clock position, playing Protoss in brown. It'll be interesting to see what sort of strategy BackHo goes for this time. He hasn't been able to beat July in a straight-up game of StarCraft thus far. He lost comprehensively in Game 1 and Game 2, and managed to win only by virtue of an all-in 2-gate Zealot rush against an unsuspecting cross-map July. If July had scouted, that was a big risk. If July had scouted, he would have been prepared, he would have stopped it. So it'll be interesting to see how July reacts on this map. Othello is considered to be a map that favors a Zerg player, and especially favors a player like July over BackHo. But BackHo has done the improbable once. I really did not expect him to come out trumps on Othello. He's once again putting the pylon down outside of his wrap. That seems to be consistent with him, and it'll be interesting to see whether he reverts to his stock strategy, his standard strategy. And I'm not sure if that's a man or a woman holding up the poster in the crowd. Okay, it's a man. Just part of his face was hidden, and the long hair, and I'm not sure I would want to look like that. I mean, no offense to guys who look like that. Yes, yeah, I'm okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, just some guy pointing a gun at us with his fingers. That's kind of cool, I guess. So anyway, July scouting northwards with his overlord in the counterclockwise direction. So he's going to, again, because of the cross-map position, he's going to see the probe passing him, and it'll be interesting to see whether or not July looks like he's going again for either a 12 pool or 12 hatch build. Looks like he sent a drone out, so he might actually be going for a 12 hatchery build here, which will work exactly in his favor. BackHo's gone for the forge first, so a 12 hatch would be right on the money for July here. So he's just got that probe, got his drone done outside the ramp, and July has taken his natural expo, going for a 12 hatch build, and I think that's so looks like we're going to see a much more conventional game of StarCraft this time around. BackHo's probe just now arriving in July's base. BackHo having gone for the forge first, and he was kind of forced to do that because because of the positioning of the two bases. By the time he got his scout around, he had actually enough resources, so he had to make a decision, and he chose to go for the forge, which you kind of have to do if you haven't scouted your opponent. So I think that puts July in a good position in this game. We saw that even when BackHo went Nexus first and July went 12 pool, July was still able to take the game with a massive advantage. July now putting down his spawning pool down. So July's going to be strong on his economy here again. We've seen BackHo unable to stand up to July in the first two games. BackHo has now started up his Nexus, obviously putting on the Forge first. He's probably going to delay putting those cannons down since he's seen July go for the 12 hatch first. July's managed to usher that probe away with a drone of his. It'll be interesting to see what July chooses to go from here, whether he goes for a 2 hatchery build or whether he's going to try and take a 3rd hatchery. Looks like July is trying to take a 3rd hatchery. He's trying to take the expo just in the middle of the map, just outside of his natural expo. So July going for a 3 hatchery build. And if July can actually make this work, and this is actually quite clever by July, because he realizes that BackHo and July managed to put the hatchery down. BackHo doing his best to slow July down. This actually, I'm sorry that I haven't seen a lot of games on Othello, and that's probably why I missed that. That's what July was going for. But it's actually quite a clever move by July, because it's going to be a while before BackHo can really do too much harassment. And July, with those 2 expos, is going to be in prime position to take advantage of the 3 gas, and it's almost sort of an opposite of Horangdo. And this is almost a Savior-esque build, a build that we've been talking about how vulnerable it is. We were talking about in our podcast about how the 3 hatchery build has become more vulnerable for Zerg players of late. Obviously, July put the spawning pool down before putting on the 3rd hatchery. Nevertheless, I think July is going to be in a very strong position. Obviously, his 3rd base is going to be slightly more exposed to harassment and attack from BackHo, considering the position of it, because it is possible to come at it from 2 directions. And obviously, that's going to make it a little bit more difficult for July to defend. But the key thing about July is that he usually has enough ground troops so far in this matchup. He's usually always had enough ground troops to defend his bases against his opponents, and therefore has not been in a position where he's had to really defend with. He's had to have a single choke point to defend. He's just been able to have weight, strength in numbers, and weight in numbers. He's just been able to almost out-macro BackHo and outplay him, and it'll be interesting if he can do that again. BackHo just kind of scouting around July's main with his probe still. July unable to take that probe out. And BackHo's done a decent job of getting the scout in July into July's base throughout this game. July taking the lair in his natural expo, just trying to deny that information to BackHo for a couple of seconds. BackHo cleverly bringing his probe down the ramp, anticipating not seeing the lair because he was wandering around the main for as long as he thought, and when he didn't see the lair pop up there, there. He just popped in to check the National Expo, and indeed could see the lair popping up there for July. So I still expect July to take this match quite comfortably. In any game where there's been an even contest where the players haven't cheesed, July has come out on top, and he's looked the stronger player. He's looked the more confident player, the more aggressive player, the more together player, and the player more in control of his StarCraft. Whereas BackHo seems to be playing very reactively, reacting to what July does as opposed to taking the initiative. He's now sending a Zealot down to harass July a little bit. July putting down his 4th hatchery now at the Expo. In just outside of his natural expo, at the off expo. So July is going to be forced to micro he doesn't seem to have a lot of Zerglings, and July going very heavy economy there, so he's forced to micro his drones around, trying to avoid that Zealot from doing any damage to his economy. Doing a good job of it so far. We should anticipate a couple more Zerglings popping out for July to mop up the probe first, and July's, luckily enough for him, the probe's popping, and BackHo pulls the moment he sees the four Zerglings, he pulls. This is good timing for July as well, because he's now started the Spire, so BackHo hasn't seen that, but BackHo also didn't see a Hydralisk Den go up for July, so he's going to anticipate probably that July's putting the Spire up as well. Meanwhile, BackHo has got his Citadel Leviathan up. He's ushered away July's Overlord. I haven't seen a Stargate yet for BackHo, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of strategy he goes for, whether he tries to sneak a DT in early. July has obviously gone for the Spire, and this might be very bad for BackHo. If BackHo is going for some sort of speed, if he's maybe trying to do a push with speed lots, he is putting the Templar Archives now, so we are going to see DTs, but I don't see a robotics facility, so I don't see the ability to drop. I don't see Corsairs to have for him to have air control and air superiority, and considering the fact that July is going for a Spire, I haven't seen a Hydralisk Den go down for July. This is going to play right into July's hands, and BackHo is going to be in huge trouble here. And I have to say, I find it a little bit, his choice of strategy a little bit perplexing. July just trying to corner that Dragoon, BackHo trying to maneuver it away, trying to maneuver it towards July's base. I'm not sure what he hopes to achieve with that, but that Dragoon, he runs a circle around the Zerglings. He's just going to get into that expansion and get within range, just gets a pop off the Overlord. Maybe he just wanted to try and get a scout through, but it seems strange to sacrifice the Dragoon for the scout. So now the Spire is up for July. I'm sure the Templar Archives by now is up for BackHo. Meanwhile, July putting down a creep colony, and I think that creep colony could very well prove vital. And I think BackHo building. So BackHo looks like he's going for speed lots, maybe with a couple of DTs in support. He's got the Templar Archives up, or maybe he's going to be more conservative, just get High Templars up and support, use the High Templars, because he has to know that there's going to be air coming. He didn't see a Hydralisk Den down for July. He saw the lair. He has to assume that Mutalisk will be coming, and so therefore we're probably going to actually see High Templar morphed into Archon for BackHo in time. He's now putting up gateways, so he's going to go into a little bit of defense posture. He's putting the photon cannons up as air defense as well. I'm not sure how effective that defense is going to be. He's got a DT out as well, so he's decided to produce a DT. I haven't seen any High Templar out for him. He's putting 3 photon cannons down. July's Mutals arriving. This is going to be close. High Templar out for BackHo. He's going to try and morph them into Archons, but July's going to have a window of time here where he can harass BackHo's economy, and July's going to take down the High Templar. July decided was going to take the High Templar down, but BackHo's in huge trouble here. I thought it was a third photon cannon, but it was the second pylon, and this is going to be GG right here. Very pedestrian StarCraft. This is insane. BackHo has just thrown the game away. He's now sending his Zealots out, probably with his DT, to try and do some harass to July's economy. BackHo forced to maneuver his probes back into his National Expo. He's going to just try and draw those Mutalisks away from his main so that he can try and get a couple of photon cannons or some defense on. He's built a couple of Dragoons, but really this is completely insane StarCraft. Storm going off. BackHo managed to get a Storm off on July's Mutalisk, and this might save him. I think that was a BackHo fan cheering him on there. I think July's going to have some defense waiting for the Zealots, but the Zealots streaming in towards July's off Expo. He's building an Archon, but meanwhile his main is still taking a battering, and looks like BackHo might have managed to conserve that main. So BackHo now coming in with the 4 Zealots. July has got a Sunken in place. He's got a couple of Hydralisks and Zerglings waiting as well, so this attack is going to come for naught for BackHo, and July in a very strong position in this game, because remember guys, he has got the 3 bases, so he is in a very strong position in this game, and in terms of his economy he's strong. He's managed to harass and hurt BackHo quite a lot. I don't think he killed a lot of, and we can see the probably Dragoon range being upgraded now in the Cybernetic score. July now taking the expansion at the 6 o'clock position as well. BackHo doesn't have any forces on the ground to really touch or harass or slow July down or do anything to hurt him. July putting on the Evolution Chamber in his main as well, and I really think it's going to be very difficult for BackHo to do anything against July in this game now. He's in a very strong position. BackHo pretty much locked into his base, and this isn't Andromeda where he can take another expansion relatively easily, and I really don't see any way out. I think July is going to be going through the finals, as most people I think would have predicted. July coming in for another raid with his Mutalisk. BackHo did manage to do a little bit of damage to them. He's got a decent number of Dragoons in, but at the very least July's going to get a scout off. He loses one of the Mutalisks, unfortunately. He's trying to find a position there where he can do some harassment and do some damage to BackHo's economy, and maybe from just behind that cliff in the middle line. That's exactly what July's doing. July pounding away at the probes. BackHo does have enough Dragoons to cope with him this time though, but July's now got lurk lurkers up. July keeping the pressure on BackHo, not allowing him to really extend himself, not allowing him to take the initiative in this game. July keeping the initiative, keeping the pressure. BackHo only now putting up a robotics facility. July's got those lurkers in position though. Unfortunately, one of his lurkers is within range of the photon cannons, but it's going to be a while before BackHo gets that observer up, and meanwhile he's going to be locked in his base, and July already taking to Hive. And really, I have to say, this almost looks like a D level or a B or even an A level, maybe ICUP player against a Korean pro gamer from pro StarCraft gamer. That's how one-sided this contest has been. And the only time BackHo's been able to affect any damage to July is when he cheesed him and caught him completely unawares. But now July's got that expansion at 6 o'clock. He's got his expansions well defended. He's got his base well defended. And really, I see very little hope for BackHo in this game. July is just completely going to out-macro him here and swarm him, and it's only a matter of time. BackHo might have one chance when he pushes out with his built-up force, but I think July's just going to have too much for him. So July looks like he's going to take a comfortable victory here and progress through to the finals. BackHo's finally got his robotics facility up. He's now putting up the observatory, but meanwhile July is just spreading himself all over the map, and this is really the pattern we've seen so far in this matchup. It's been completely mismatched. It literally has been the god of war versus a lamb awaiting slaughter, and July has duly obliged BackHo with exactly what he was wishing for. So July continued to produce, and I just don't see any hope at all for BackHo in this game. He's managed to take out one of the lurkers with his storm. He's now got the observatory up. He should have a couple of observers out soon, but he doesn't really have enough of a ground force to really touch July at all. And looks like we're going to see a Best versus July final. And I think some people predicted that Best was going to be too strong for July. I think on the evidence of the StarCraft we've seen on display today from July, I think it's very hard to make that sort of a call. I think it's very premature. I think the golden mouse beckons, and I think July can see it, and you can see it in the way that he's been fraught with purpose in this game of StarCraft. And BackHo is just hiding and sitting, and finally he's going to make his egress. But July hasn't even pushed much of a contained force. He's only had a couple of lurkers just to slow BackHo down while he's continued to build himself up. And unfortunately, BackHo is going to find a few nasty surprises waiting for him when he finally tries to effect any sort of attack. BackHo's got ground attack upgrade 1 on his zealots, but that's not going to bother July too much. I don't think July's got. He's also got attack upgrade 1 on his dragoons. I don't think July's got any upgrades on his Zerglings, though we did see that evolution chamber going on, obviously, for him to put up the hive. And now we're going to see a battle in the middle of the map. July trying to get a flanking position on BackHo. He's content to lure BackHo in. BackHo coming in within the range of the lurkers. This is suicide by BackHo. He just moved his entire force within the range of the lurkers without moving the observer ahead, and took damage to most of his troops. July just sending in a couple of Zerglings to buffer those units, and BackHo losing zealots and a couple of dragoons to those lurkers, and that really wasn't profitable by BackHo. He's got a couple of High Templar. He has to use his forces wisely. He has to really conserve, and make July break upon him like waves upon rock and waves upon stone. And BackHo trying to just lure those Zerglings away. Clever play by BackHo. This time he effected a decent attack, going just within range, enough range of the lurkers to lure the Zerglings out of the lurkers' protection, and then getting a storm off. Great storm by BackHo there. That's one thing that has been impressive about him. If anything, it hasn't been his storm control. And now July looks like he's going to come in himself with a larger force of Zerglings. Another storm going off by BackHo, but July has managed to kill most of the dragoons of BackHo's forces, and he's now just streaming in relentless forces, and BackHo doing his best to defend against the tide. July, meanwhile, has more Guardians behind BackHo's Natural Expo, and he's wiping out the probes. BackHo manages to survive July's aggress with the Zerglings, but he's lost all of his dragoons. He's used up his storms. He's now once again trying to push forward, but July's able to just outproduce him. BackHo's production is just nowhere near being able to cope with the rate at which July can produce. BackHo being forced to bring back his High Templar to try and counter those Guardians that are pounding away at his economy. BackHo's economy wasn't great to speak of. It wasn't anything to write home about. And Swarm going off. This is just, it's just like America invading, I don't know, Afghanistan or something. There's just a technological mismatch here. July is just so far ahead in the tech tree. He's got Guardians, he's got Defilers, he's got Swarm. He might even decide to throw out a Plague there. This is just an utter humiliation for BackHo. I really see no way back in this game for him, and you can just see he's biting his lip, about to burst into tears almost. I hope he doesn't do that on national television in Korea. BackHo trying to take that expansion to the 6 o'clock down. That's probably the weakest expansion in terms of July's defense. BackHo getting a couple of storms off, taking out those lurkers as they pop, but July's going to be able to reinforce it. He's got mainly dragoons. He doesn't have too many zealots. He's sending in some zealots now to reinforce, to try and provide those dragoons with a little bit of a buffer, try and take that 6 o'clock expansion down. Meanwhile, BackHo is not mining his Natural Expo, so he's limited to his main only, unless he's taken that off Expo. I think he has by looking at the minimap, but he seems to be holding off July's Zerglings. July's just sending piecemeal Zerglings here, and he's allowed BackHo to build up a decent sized force, I'm not sure why July is doing that. I'm not sure why he waits a little bit before sending his forces in, because BackHo has now built a decent-sized force. July continued to put the Zerglings out, and even though I thought July was in a really strong and really comfortable position, he's in the danger of losing the 6 o'clock expansion. He's got a single sunken up there. He doesn't have any lurkers. He's got masses of Zerglings, but he doesn't really have a lot to back them up. So July with a small group of Zerglings trying to take out BackHo. Obviously those are cracklings, and he's managed to push BackHo back. He's just continuing to pump those Zerglings out. More storms for BackHo, and I'm surprised to see July just persisting with Zerglings, but now July's managed to bring some Zerglings around the rear towards those undefended Zerglings, and a brilliant storm from BackHo takes those Zerglings out, and BackHo's actually come right back into this game. July focusing back with his Guardians at that National Expo, but I do think BackHo's got the off Expo up and running, and that's exactly what's going on. BackHo's got that off Expo, so July's now going to lose the 6 o'clock Expo, and this is going to be very bad for him. Despite his technological lead and his advantage and his massive macro economy, I'm surprised that July is just sticking to solely producing Zerglings. He's not producing any more Hydralisks. Looks like he's obviously concentrating on those Guardians, so that National Expo is going to get taken out. That's not going to bother BackHo too much, even though he's lost a couple of gateways in the process, but some great storm usage by BackHo is keeping him in this game when I thought he was down and out, and maybe July showing a smattering of overconfidence, but BackHo is now trying to come in towards July's off Expo, and July's off Expo is exposed. The soft underbelly of that Expo is exposed. July with the Defiler finally coming out, putting a swarm up over BackHo's forces. Obviously, that's not going to affect the storms, but July in huge trouble here. He's actually at risk of losing a game, which I thought he should have taken easily, trying to make that switch to Ultralisk and conserve resources for that and keep BackHo at bay. Meanwhile, he might just have played BackHo's. I don't think he needed to go to Ultralisk, but now July's finally got a decent group of Zerglings, and he's finally going to stuff this attack out from BackHo, and BackHo immediately GG's. So July almost toying with BackHo there. I don't see why he couldn't have done that earlier. I just didn't understand why he had to keep sending in groups of 6 to 8 Zerglings every single time against BackHo's force to try and whittle it down. There was no need for that, but maybe he was just trying to slow BackHo down a little bit, and why he only had the one sunken in the 6 o'clock expansion. He easily had time. He had bought time to put a couple more sunkens down. Anyway, those are ifs, buts, nots, maybes. The result is July has claimed a resounding victory over BackHo, has trounced his opponent and marched right into the finals. We've seen a couple of chinks in July's armory, but nothing to write home about, and I think he's going to be comfortable, to say the least, against Best. And my money is on July to take the Golden Mouse. He looks determined. He has the hunger. Will Best be able to match it? We're going to find out in the finals. This is Klazart. Thanks for listening, and I apologize for any interruptions and loss of quality in the cast that we might have had, and for losing Moletrap, whose commitment to StarCraft commentary cannot be questioned by anyone after this day, and to the community, obviously, braving the cold and, I suppose, guys in drag to bring the dual commentary to you. Anyway, thanks for listening. I'm going to unmute myself now, but that was a great game of StarCraft. Obviously, great for me because I'm a July fan. Probably not so enjoyable for BackHo fans, but GG nonetheless. I hope you guys enjoyed those games, and will get to enjoy them when you listen to them on YouTube. Sorry, Moletrap, I had my sound muted, so if you tried to join in the middle, I don't know if that worked or not. I think Moletrap still got his mic muted, or he's AFK. I don't even know if you got the stream working. Oh, better stop recording.